Welcome to a video from thedigitalive.com. This video I want to show you a technique for doing the ratcheting Berlin School Tangerine Dream type sequences on multi-poly, and this is 100% applies to the Modwave as well. There's a few bits I've done with the layers which are slightly different, but the sequencing part is exactly the same. So to start off, I'm actually going to pick the Minimo template on there. So there we've got our base, or what will be our base section there. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to be using the motion sequencer, and there's quite a few different ways of doing this, but I wanted to have a way of you being able to control the ratcheting. And what I mean by ratcheting, I heard this for ages, never really understood it, and I think I've got it now, is where you've got a sequence playing, and as one of the notes plays, it can be divided down. So if you got into quarters, it could be divided down into 16, say, and play the same note, but just divided down. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that kind of thing, the same pitch. But I wanted to, now you can easily do that, replicate that with the timing lane here on the motion sequencer by having, say, the 16 notes like that, and then you can have 4 32 notes and then some more 16 notes and set the pitch in there. But what I wanted to do is get it so you've got the control over it, and it appears almost random, but you're controlling it. So I'm using the mod controls for that. So I'm not going to be using the timing lane to do this, although I am using the motion sequencer. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get a basic sound that sounds right. So I'm going to be using the filter envelope to this. And we're going to use both filters actually later, but for now we'll just use a single filter. So I'm going to leave my amp envelope alone and just control the filter, which means I'm going to turn this filter down and use a filter intensity to do it. So there's my... So there's something close to what we want. So maybe an octave down as well. I'm going to use these other two for something different later, but so that's the basic pitch. Okay, so I want to make a little sequence now, so I'm going to record this on the pitch lane. I'm going to do it in D minor, something like that. Yeah, that will do. So I've got 8 note sequence there, so I'm just going to, you could have done it, I could have done 16, I was going to check that. So we'll turn it on. In fact, I'm going to be using this sequence bit as well, so I'm going to set that all to be the same note length for now. So we can hear that, and it stops. If we turn the filter up, maybe I want that tempo down. That'll do. Now we're going to have the filter right the way down. So we need to be able to hear it. So we need to trigger the filter. Now, when I'm doing these sequences, what I normally do is go to the envelope and trigger it from the step pulse. So there's a kind of Tangerine Dream-like sequence, but it's not doing that ratcheting effect. So I thought, well, how can we do that? We need to, every now and again, divide it down. So I'm not going to use the step sequencer pulse. What I'm going to use is the sequence lanes. So we go back to sequencer. So let's say I put on I'm going to put every other one on just for now, just so you can hear it. So you can hear every other note. Now, what I don't want is the linear transitions. I want that. So now it's being triggered every time, or every other go, but I want it to be triggered every time. Okay, so it's just triggering once because that level is staying high. So I'm going to use the shape, and this is the shape of this pulse that's coming from the step sequencer, which we want to trigger the envelope of the filter. So if I set it to a slow down, see, we triggered it we triggered it and it's staying high. So what I can do, if I replace all those with triangle, okay, so there's, we've got a sequence. We've obviously got no ratcheting yet, but we could do that. So let's say on this second note here, we could use one of the other shapes, and there's a few others we can use, and here is a double one. So there's a double one. Maybe here, I think we've got a third one, a triple one even. I think there's even a 4 one. So there's the 4th one. I didn't use this earlier on, but I'm going to actually go for a second one. Okay, so now we're ratcheting. So that first note plays a full note, then it plays it twice, then it plays it once, and then 3 times, and so on. What I wanted to do is to make it so that you can introduce some controls using the mod controls. So what we can do is that probability, we can set it to 0. Probability is the probability of that step happening. If I set it about, say, 70%, you should hear it. If I slow it down, so it's skipping it every now and again. Oh, it's skipping it and playing it every now and again. But I'm going to set that to 0. I'm going to set that to 0, and that one as well. And then we can modulate, we can control that. So I want that to be mod 1. We want this one to be mod 2. And I want this one to be mod 3. So you couldn't, I've only got 4 mod controls, so I can only control 4 out of the 8 steps. Maybe on something, another synth, like maybe the wave state, you could use all those controls to and have each individual one ratcheted. I suppose I could use 4 in the Chaos pad or something like that, but we'll stick with those 4 now. So that, if I play that sequence, if I control mod 1 halfway, we get the, there we go, because the probability is at 50%. And if I do that one, and then I can do this one. So now I've got control over that. Bring that envelope intensity down. So there we are. I've introduced that ratcheting, that subdividing of a single step. So we've got twice, 3 times, and twice. Let's stick it on that 4 one. We'll turn that 4th one up. That sounds okay, so we'll leave that. So that's sequence ratcheting, as far as I understand it anyway. Even if it's not, I think it's a great effect. So we're using the filter envelope triggered by the step sequencer, and the step sequencer is using the shape to determine whether I'm getting 1 pulse, 2 pulses, 3 pulses, or 4 pulses to subdivide it down. So it would be great if you could control that more, but that's the limitations of the controls I've got in there. So that's what the way I understand it. Now that is exactly the same as the Modwave as it is on here, so you can reproduce this exactly. On the Modwave, you've got 2 layers or 2 oscillators and 2 layers. Here within this single oscillator, what I'm going to do, I'll turn that off for now. I'm going to turn on a 3rd oscillator. And let's turn all the ratchets up. Now what I want to do is use that sequence, but I don't want it to be ratcheted. So we're using the filter to get that ratchet effect. But what we've got 2 filters, so I can put them into parallel, turn on filter B and send oscillator 3 just to filter B. And now we've not got that ratcheting because it's not being triggered by the filter envelope. So now, in my demonstration at the beginning, I used mod 4 for that one to control the level of that one. So what I think I'm going to do with that is have a tempo, tempo synced free running filter, LFO. There we go. So that's going. So if I bring back the other two oscillators now. And maybe I'll set that level to be controlled by 4. Notice we've not touched the amp on here, and I can get an interesting effect if you release the amp. Because the filter's closed now. I quite like that. And so don't forget we can turn these ratchets right down. There you go. So I'm just using that fourth one on there. So again, there we go, there's our ratchet. Now, the other things that I demonstrated on, you could do some extra stuff in there. I could have some stereo ensemble strings and some voices. So let's just split the keyboard now. So I'll keep that bass to the down bit, and we'll have the we'll turn off the vocals for now. I just want to show another trick for that, but let's. So there we go. So I put the string in the other bit, but there's one other technique which I always liked on the sort of Tangerine Dream thing, is where the vocals play at the beginning of each bar. So maybe I want to get something like that. I can certainly trigger something like that every now and again. I can actually trigger it from the motion sequencer. And if I set again this to off, I set sequence A to be the first step as 100, and I trigger the envelope by sequence A. So I've trimmed down the envelope bit. So that's what I want to trigger. So I'll go to that sequence and trigger it from there. Turn that on. But what I want to do is trigger it from the lower part of the keyboard where I'm doing the bass bit. Like that. But I want to make that little chord thing. So I'm going to copy and paste it to the oscillators. And I'm going to have this. So I'm going to play sort of like that effect. I think I'm just going to reduce that level a bit. Now if we play the three together. There we go, I think that's about right. So I think that's it. So I'll save this one and I'll upload this to digitalifestyle.com, and you can download this if you want to give it a try. But the simple effect for the ratchet is just using the motion sequencer with these step pulses to trigger an envelope, and then you can control the probability of them, which will then introduce whether they play or not. So I hope that helps. I hope that's correct as well. I think it is, but let me know. Please leave a comment, and I'll see you on the next video.